Hello and welcome to Mustaches on Mustafar. Very excited for this show tonight. We're having back one of my favorite guests that I've ever had on the show, and also one of my good friends online. We've had so many people that I consider to be good friends, even though I've never met him in real life, and this guy is definitely one of them. But to everyone who is new here, welcome. It's nice to have you guys. I got one more subscriber so far, so whoever it was, thank you very much. I do appreciate it. Let's catch up on some chats real quick, and then I'll bring in my guests. Let's see, all the way back to the top. We got Mr. Strike. I'm just going to give a big long sip after everyone because this is a lot of people. We got Jacob76, two Star Wars nerds, Zach Taft, Johnny Rebel, Grand Admiral Gamer, Phil McCracken, Leia Rose, Ninja Ghost, Matt Cave, Mr. Kyle Katarn, and Shane Thomas Donovan. Here's a sip for all of you guys. Well, I will bring in my guests now. Very happy to have them on. And if you are not subscribed to either of their channels, please do so. Because tonight we have Kyle Katarn and Strike. Hello, gentlemen.
Hello there. Thanks for inviting me back on the show, man. I had a great time last time I was here.
You are very welcome. And I forgot the other day when I invited you back on to say that Bendu is always welcome to join us. He's probably busy, but for the future, he is always welcome.
I will definitely let him know. Unless he's watching right now, in which case, Bendu. Now you know.
Well, here's a provisional sip for you. We're going to have a good discussion tonight because we got a banger of an episode last week.
I have to say, before we begin, may I compliment your sip audio? It's like ASMR up in here. It's such a rich sound. You really get all of that in there. Listen to that. It's crisp.
It's just a thing. Oh, we got a new viewer as well. Kathy, here's a sip for you. Well, I stole it from another channel. There's another channel who does their live show. Infinitely more subscribers than I have. But I just thought it would be something I would carry over to my channel, and it seems like people like it. So I will keep doing it. I guess we can start off by, how do you guys feel about the show as a whole so far? And actually, before we even do that, let's talk about this last episode. How do you feel? What do you rate it 1 out of 10? Just how did this last episode hit you?
I would put it at a solid 8.5.
In terms of Star Wars content, I would definitely put it at like a 9. I think I put it at a 9. I guess just Star Wars content in general, I thought it was really good. Bryce Dallas Howard killed it. I mean, she has done a fantastic job on Mando season 1 and 2, but yeah, she definitely killed it on this one.
Getting that compliment from the Matt Cave is really something. So
I appreciate it. Thank you so much.
What's up, Warriors? Nice to see you. And Father Time, nice to see you guys. I would say probably 8.5 as well. Nice. I'll say right off the bat, the mechanic lady, I know her name is Peli Motto, right?
Peli Motto,
yes,
is my least favorite character in Star Wars of all time.
Really?
Yes.
Not a fan.
Chase him. You can chase him with that character.
We need a sitcom about her dating Jawas. What are you talking about?
Okay. I don't
believe with the laugh track. It was the canned laughter and everything. Like
low key, I know Coffee doesn't like that line at all with like the furry stuff, but no shit.
It was silly.
But the thing is, when she said it, I looked at like,
yes, queen.
That was a no word.
Oh, what? Did I?
I heard one, so I played a video.
Okay, I'll try to not. But I actually looked at like the Jawas more closely, and I realized like their hands. Like I never looked at Jawas that closely. Like their hands they literally have fur. And then I went back to A New Hope because I was like, is that something new, or did they have that always? And for sure, they had it.
I wouldn't put it past George Lucas to like digitally paint fur on in 1997 in Freaking special edition. No, but yeah, I'm pretty sure that they did already have. There's some footage from Return of the Jedi in Jabba's palace where a couple of Jawas were present, and you can see that what the actors were actually wearing were big, just black pieces of fabric that acted like light boxes with little eyes mounted on it, and they were far enough recessed in the hoods that there was literally no detail sculpted for Jawa faces. Like, so we don't, it's anyone's guess. The hands is like the best physical thing we have to go on there.
Yeah.
I will say Amy Sedaris is amazing. She's the second human to ever speak Jawa convincingly on screen.
Okay, that is 100%.
That was pretty great.
And I will say it's nothing against the actress, because I'm sure she's playing that character very well. It's just
you just don't like where the character takes the episode. Like it kind of
it just has a different kind of flavor. Her mannerisms just doesn't hit me the right way. It's not because it's not serious enough. It's just very hard to put into words. Just
sure.
Anytime she's on the screen, it just takes me out of it. It's just like, oh, I don't want to watch this. And
she
I actually
doesn't make me think of like traditional Star Wars so much as I feel like she represents broader sci-fi. She's got Sigourney Weaver's hair from Alien, for example. She's wearing like such a retro futurist looking jumpsuit. Like I think that she's kind of just a head nod to the general campiness of sci-fi. And it's definitely like not a flavor for everyone. I completely hear you on that one.
Yeah.
Well, watching this episode over a few more times, in watching other people's reactions and myself watching it, I've warmed up to her character a little bit. She serves a really huge purpose in getting Din Djarin his new ship.
You've had plenty of time. She's almost had as much screen time as Cara Dune at this point. She's been in so many episodes.
That's true. I did not like her in The Mandalorian at all. Just anytime she popped on screen, it just kind of took me out of it. I kind of shut myself off.
A lot of people really didn't like the gunslinger for other reasons. And so by the time she shows up on the screen, you're already kind of heated, That's true.
I will say though, I personally don't really have a problem at all with her. I don't know. I think because it's Mos Eisley, and
I would agree.
Literally, any crazy person would be in Mos Eisley. So I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. She why like dated a Jawa? Yeah, why not? Like, of course.
Who kind of just like springs to mind is the crazy old lady from Mos Espa who's like, "Storm's coming, Annie. Better get home quick." Like with her hair all crazy and like, Pelly kind of has that kind of a vibe. Maybe that's her aunt or something. Over there,
everything's possible.
And like I said, it's nothing against the actress. It's just her character hit me the wrong way at first.
Right.
I'm warming up to her now because of the part she played in this episode, and I'm okay with her character now. And I'll just say
I will say I felt like when she was like, "This is a classic," and like hits on it and like parts fall down. That definitely
she's very funny.
Out of me.
She's very funny.
I mean, she gets the honor of introducing that N1.
Yes.
So like. You kind of have to respect her for being like the narrative reason why we get this awesome ship back into the narrative again.
Yeah.
But it's not for nothing. She's the first, but not the only Strangers with Candy alumni to show up in the show. The actor, I'm blanking on his name right now, who plays Mok Shaiz as Major Domo, was also on Strangers with Candy. They were on the show together. Both absolutely hilarious. The Major Domo's giving a hysterical performance also, but it's very understated. Like it's very subtle. You'll blink and you'll miss it. But the smug contemptness that he had for Boba and Fennec, like when he's trying to tell them, like, oh, like no, we're not bringing you any tribute. Like we expect tribute from us. Like what do we bring? Our utmost welcome. Like what a smarmy thing to say. They're like you can't help it. I don't know. I love to hate him, and I hope that Boba spares him. Honestly, I hope that Boba ends up having him be his Major Domo. Because how great would that be if the Pikes come in trying to like strong arm Boba and they're given the bureaucratic runaround by this dude? Like
that would be kind of funny, yeah.
Definitely. But other than that, the episode is I gave it an 8 because of the mechanic lady at first. It's bumped up a half a point since then, just because I'm really appreciating all that we got. Phantom Menace is my second favorite Star Wars movie behind Revenge of the Sith. I love the Phantom Menace.
I love it too.
So many callbacks to the Phantom Menace in this episode. I mean, we got an N1 in the pod racing circuit.
Race.
We never imagined that we would get
literally the
like
same internal, like the user interface was the same. It lighted up the same way. The sound effects, the engine design, like it was amazing.
Yeah.
I also love the way it looked like the ship was treated like an American classic car.
Yes.
Oh, it was
they did a really good job
car.
of making it feel like it existed outside of this era.
Yeah.
And there's something to be said of when you build your own vehicle. Not that I've built a whole car before, but when you modify it a little bit or fix something,
Sure.
and it's to a point where you take it on a test drive, there's such pride in that. And I felt that when he was driving this ship. And then to cap it off, when he gets back and he says "wizard," that's such a cool callback to
Wizard. Yeah.
I've been trying to
Yeah.
like, I don't know, not to jump on the hipster bandwagon, but man, I've been trying to bring Wizard back for so many years. In my
Yeah.
in my tiny little corner, I call things Wizard, and people have just been rolling their eyes.
I
Me and
love it.
Kister.
Yeah, literally, she should have been like, "What?" And then I'm bringing it back.
And Ram Jamaram from High Republic. The three of us have been bringing it back. I loved it, and I love the way that the engine scoop was like mounted on the hood like that.
Mhm.
It was so nasty. It was like a rat rod of a classic car.
Well, and
the
there's
fact
more.
that Mando can't help, he just keeps getting pulled over.
Yeah,
It's
by
just
the same
hilarious to me.
guy.
Well, and there's more important things that it ties into, because the Jawas crimped it off of one of the Pike's vehicles. Like that can
Right.
come into play in a big way. Like what if I think it was Obsession on X-Wing stream the other day that said, what if Boba uses the Jawas to sabotage the Pikes? Like it's
We know the
very.
Razor Crest didn't look that good after
would
the
be really
Jawas
cool.
were
Right.
done with it.
There's just
My
so many things that could come into play in the future.
My initial theory that got blown out of the water by the Pikes in episode 3 was that Boba was going to have the Tusken tribe become his daimyo army, and that he was going to like staff the grounds of Boba's palace with like Tusken security everywhere.
Mhm.
Would have been cool. No, definitely didn't.
Crushed.
Definitely didn't happen.
Right. So I guess we can move on to how do you guys feel about the show as a whole? Not necessarily 1 out of 10, just what are you feeling that it's delivering for you?
Okay. I will say I think the part of the show, taking out the Mandalorian season 2.5 episode, I would say the parts that I've enjoyed most were actually the sort of flashback timeline or pre-Mando timeline. I think I've enjoyed that the most so far, which is an unpopular opinion because most
Mhm.
don't like that part of the show so far.
I've been really enjoying that part. I think I agree with you the most, actually.
Yeah, I just think it's the most, because I do have like my nitpicks are only in the present timeline, and I just think in the sort of Tusken timeline, like his character is like 100% believable on what he would have done before Mando season 2. And yeah, I think as with the show as a whole, it was definitely different than I expected it to. Actually, I don't even know what I expected, because I was like,
We
I
didn't
have
have much
no
to go on.
idea. Yeah, it was kind of like, well, it's gonna be a sort of a crime show, I guess, but
When
like at the
the
same
teasers were
time,
coming out, the biggest speculation that everyone had in common was that they're only showing us 2 episodes. Everyone thought, and it turns out they were showing us quite a bit,
they
actually.
were showing us, yeah,
They showed us like several things out of the first like 4 or 5 episodes, quite honestly. But because it was also condensed, because of how they're truncating the story with these flashbacks, we assumed that we didn't know anything about how it was going to go. And I think that raised everyone's expectations and kind of heightened what we were demanding from it in terms of like, okay, well, if all of this like daimyo stuff gets sorted in the first 2 episodes, somehow we kind of made that
right,
assumption. Well, we expect like the moon and stars now for the rest of this show.
right.
But if in fact we're actually going to concentrate on that for the entirety of the season, that can make people feel a little disappointed. But I wouldn't necessarily hold that as a valid criticism of the show. That's kind of on us for leaping to conclusions a little bit,
Mhm.
you know?
Oh, for sure, for sure. And I do think that Robert Rodriguez, like saying all over again, it's gonna be all killer, no filler, definitely got caught some people the wrong way, because that
Mhm.
is definitely going to make some people be like, all right, so he's just going to kick ass every episode, like nonstop.
Right.
And honestly, I don't even expect that from a show. I totally, with like the first 2 episodes, I was totally like, yeah, it totally makes sense, like as just the logic of a show being like, you start out at like the okay level, like the lower level, just so, and then you have slow build up, so the payoff at the end where like the real action is going on is even greater.
Right.
But I think just the fact that he said like it's gonna be all killer, no fillers, just caught some people the wrong way, I'm sure.
Yeah, and then again, it all boils into the expectations that you carry with you into the experience,
Right. Which goes right back to our point with rewatching episodes or movies.
Yeah, I think we hadn't even started the stream yet when we were talking about that. We were saying I was making the point that like your initial reaction to watching a piece of media sometimes can be drastically different to the second time you watch it. I'm a big believer in watching something more than once before you like conclude your thoughts on something, because like your mindset makes a big difference, your mood makes a big difference. The company you're with when you watch something also can make a huge difference too. So in order to really have a well-rounded, nuanced understanding of a piece of film, I really suggest just watch it a couple times.
Yep.
I definitely feel like if I had someone like a Bendu with me watching these episodes, I would be way more hyped than I even am in my reactions right now. Yeah, I wish I had my very own Bendu. But like I see you guys, even though it's over the internet, you guys can bounce ideas off of each other. Like, oh, did you catch that? What was that? And like one of you remembers
we definitely
what it is.
Mirror each other's energy, and it makes me probably more hyped than I would be just watching it by myself.
Yeah, 100%.
It's more exciting that way for sure.
Yeah. Shane says right here, I think we're getting a ham solo. I have to read it correct. Ham solo cameo before the show
Coming
ends.
soon
Highly
to
rumored.
To Dexter Jetzer's diner.
Yes.
There it is.
And then did you guys hear about the IMDb for the next episode shows Harrison Ford? Do you hear about that?
Yes.
What
was
do you
that just
feel
the normal
about
one?
I think that when I was 17 years old, I created a Wikipedia article saying that I was the creator and inventor of love. So I don't really, and also as a working actor who has an IMDb Pro account, I know how easy it is to put anyone's credentials anywhere. So I do not trust anything from IMDb as a source personally.
Yeah.
If he did show up just like as a story beat, like Han Solo would be like the ultimate legacy person to interact with Boba Fett, because they had the most synergy in the original narrative,
Right.
It would be great. It would be totally great, but I don't
see it.
Well,
at least right now.
Harrison's attitude notwithstanding, I'm just not convinced by an IMDb source alone is all I'm getting at.
For sure. Yeah, I'll just end it off with like my overall opinion of the show so far. So yeah, like flashbacks, loved it. Honestly, everything. I mean, we got like literally, I think Boba has literally been only killing or beating up people in the flashback. So I'm really surprised that none or the main narrative doesn't seem to like that timeline. And we literally got one of the most beautiful shots of Slave One, completely annihilating people.
Yeah, that was amazing, wiping out the Kintan Striders. You guys know what a Kintan Strider is, right?
They were like essentially like Jabba's like sort of biker gang that were like terrorizing moisture farmers and like collecting taxes,
But what the name Kintan Strider, what a Kintan Strider is in the greater universe of Star Wars.
Oh no,
it's a creature. It's one of the chess pieces from the Dejarik Hollow Chess set. In A New Hope, when Chewie is playing against R2, and R2's beating his ass, Chewie plays a Kintan Strider, and then R2 uses a Mantelian Saber. But that's where the name comes from. That itself is a little Easter egg.
That's cool.
That's cool.
And that's what the symbol is. It's a Huttese K.
Oh, nice. Right on.
That's what they were painting on things.
That's awesome. Okay. That brings it to something that I wanted to talk about a little later in the show, but we can kind of bring it up now. Can you guys feel the passion from the people that are making this, or does it just feel like a money grab show? Because a lot of people are just talking up the show as, especially media outlets, just like, oh, Disney's just using the name of Boba Fett to make money. But I really feel personally the passion from the people that are making it, especially with this last episode. I think might have been you, Kyle, that said in your last reaction, this felt like a love letter to the Phantom Menace.
Yeah, absolutely.
I feel that they're extremely passionate about the Star Wars universe. Otherwise, they wouldn't even have the knowledge to include certain things. Do you guys feel the same way?
Totally.
Yeah.
You have to come from a place of, why would you care enough to sift through those details?
Right.
There has to be some level of care in there. My answer to the question is yes and yes. Of course, it's a cash grab. It's Disney. Right. It's a corporation. Right. This is a corporately produced piece of media designed to boost revenue, quarterly income, increase like subscription sales on the website. But the people that those corporate suits hired are the most passionate people about Star Wars they could possibly hire to make it commercially viable. So the answer is yes all around. Like it'll always be a cash grab, but doesn't necessarily, they're not mutually exclusive. A cash grab can be made by very passionate people. You know, they're not the ones bankrolling it. The corporate ones bankroll it.
Well, and plus, I feel like you can't obviously you can't completely answer that question yet, because I mean we will only know whether or not in which direction the show goes. We will know whether or not it's a cash grab, whether or not this story is essential for the greater universe moving forward.
Luke Skywalker showing up at the end of Mando was a cash grab. Not everyone's willing to admit that, but it was amazing. It was one of the best moments that's occurred in Star Wars. But this is an industry, right? This is an entertainment industry. Right. They're not trying to they're trying to make you smile, but as long as they can get paid in the process, that's really the bottom line here. So I don't know how to answer that question without just being by default it is yes, because it's commercial media.
I agree, and it's got to be tough being the higher ups in Disney and Lucasfilm, because you have to balance how do we appeal to the most amount of people and how do we give something that the true fans appreciate.
Sure.
I feel like they're doing it so far, especially with the whole MandaLORE that we got at the beginning of this episode. I think it's being handled
very respectfully.
Honestly,
I think
I have.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just quickly going to make the point. I honestly think in Boba, to a certain degree, they're actually, I thought in Mando they had a good balance of having those little nods that only the sweaties would catch on, but still the narrative was really well. Was the casuals were pretty capable of following along the plot, I'd say, without having a greater knowledge of the universe.
It was accessible.
Yes. I feel like in Book of Boba, actually, they have a lot of nods and things they talk about that not the average fan would probably know about. I don't know. I feel like that might also come into play why some of the more average fans are okay, seems a bit off, but
it's I think it's very important to not alienate people if they don't understand every single reference.
Right.
Because not everyone's gonna. And sometimes it can be I'm someone that catches a lot of references, and it can be hard for me to gauge what is and what isn't noticeable to other people sometimes. And you got to keep that in mind as well. And I think that if you want a show to be successful, you don't want someone to feel lost at the end of it, oh, maybe I should have, I feel like I'm being punished for not having read a specific comic book, or no one.
Yeah, no, exactly. You should be rewarded for knowing these things, but you shouldn't be punished by not knowing these things.
It should always be extra credit, bonus credit. It should never reflect your overall.
I said this after Black Chrysanthemum first got revealed. I didn't know who he was. Someone said you shouldn't have to do homework before watching an episode.
I don't feel like you needed to know who he was.
Right. Dude, I countered with Black Chrysanthemum.
They said his name 5 times, so that
want to go do the homework, but him showing up wasn't something that I had to know before. It made me want to go to the comics and books and whatever extra media.
Average and still graduate high school. You don't need that A+. It's not necessary to know the name of this guy from the comics. You're going to get taught a rudimentary amount, just enough to appreciate him on the screen, Oh, yeah. And if you want to go out and take it upon yourself to go and read the comics, that's extra. I've always seen it as extra credit,
Right.
Yeah, let's pivot to the whole.
It's a reward.
Oh. Let's pivot to the whole MandaLORE type stuff, because I wanted to get your thoughts on a few things. Started off, Jacob says, do you think Mando still believes himself as a Mandalorian?
Yes, he absolutely does. Yes. And we have proof. Not 2 scenes later in that same episode, after being cast out by the armorer, he has to board the public transport, and he tells the droid, I'm a Mandalorian. Weapons are part of my religion. Showing that he still believes himself to truly be one. However, it also demonstrates probably the largest amount of character growth we've seen from Mando, ironically not in Mando's show. The fact that he would negotiate with a droid of all things about parting with his weapons, season 1 Mandalorian.
That's true.
Never have
it's a good point.
Any of it, let alone the freaking Darksaber in a carry-on storage. I think that demonstrated massive growth potential. That and his little flashlight dad moment with the BD unit in the garage. I loved that too.
But by the way, when he just laid off his weapons, that was 100% a callback to Lord of the Rings, right?
Right, absolutely. He would not part an old man with his walking stick.
Yep.
It also made me think of his Jawa interaction in season 1, how he was So in episode 2, they jacked all of his stuff, and he was like, just ready to throw down. Just violence was the answer.
Mm-hmm.
And he used the same line: "Weapons are part of my religion."
Mm.
That line has gotten him nowhere in both situations.
Yeah.
Right.
But yeah, he
I had a
100%
comment I was going to read. I
believes
don't remember.
he's a Mando.
Personally, I think the flashbacks have given us the most juicy stuff for sure. Getting to see inside the Sarlacc was amazing.
Oh, that shot, yes.
It was so beautiful getting to see inside there. Returning, I know that there's a lot of divided opinions about the return to the pit of Carcoon with Slave One pivoting over it like that. I liked it. I thought it was cool.
Too.
It kind of reminded me of like a 1950s, like a creature feature, almost the way the tentacles like pulled on the sides, and it had like kind of a Ray Harryhausen effect, the same way that 4-armed goon beast thing from the first episode did. Like there was something a little bit stop motion-y about those tentacles.
The stop motion effects, they have incorporated a lot into like the Boromar monk, also very stop motion-y effects.
Definitely. It's so cool when they do that
with some of the droids as well.
I'll just say that the effects in this show are amazing. The practical effects, the CGI are done very tastefully. When Black Chrysanthemum ripped the Trandoshan's arm off, it was just like a rubber arm that fell on the floor, and it looked really cheesy, but it felt really Star Wars.
It felt so authentic because it's cheesy. That's what I think.
Yeah,
right.
Talking about the effects being great, I feel like some of the effects were deliberately hokey because they're supposed to be. Like,
the design
Trandoshans look like they're wearing dumb rubber heads, and they're supposed to. Like that, you can't go too far away from that campy 70s sci-fi vibe.
The design of the beak of the Sarlacc looked like the cheesy CGI.
It was some 1997 CGI.
Yes.
right.
But it made it look to where the old one didn't look bad. It made it look on purpose. It looked intentional.
Here's a criticism that I have that I don't know. Maybe I'm not in the minority here, but I think the twins should have been puppets. Yeah, they looked fine. Yep. They looked acceptable, but they looked way closer to A New Hope Jabba than they ever did to Return of the Jedi Jabba. And I really thought that like this would be a great opportunity for some more practical effects.
Yeah,
bring the Henson peeps in here. You know, like I don't know how practically they would have been able to carry a lift with like 4
that
people in a suit.
That is probably the point where they were like, you know, we can't really do that.
they probably, I mean, they could have made a single puppet with like 4 arms in the front, like one unit or something, but like I don't know. I just feel like the reliance on CGI again. They fell into the same trap they did in '97.
Although they looked really good
animating him
for CGI, they look pretty good in my opinion.
I mean, they looked totally acceptable. I just feel like stylistically, my sensibilities would have responded better to like a big goofy rubber puppet Hutt and his sister. That would have been hilarious on top of looking good.
Well, that's something.
Just looks good.
It's something I noticed in The Bad Batch and also Clone Wars Season 7. If they try to make it look too realistic, it's not going to work. They have to cartoonize it a certain, and this is talking about the animation, but you look at like the texture on their faces, it doesn't look like human skin. It looks like cartoon
to do
characters.
That in animation. Stylizing your animation helps it stand the test of time, because if you try to go photoreal, it ages rapidly and it starts looking outdated very quickly. But if it's stylized and cartooned, like you say, you know, you can totally rewatchable like a decade later. Look at that Final Fantasy: The Spirits Within movie. Yikes on bikes. They went for photorealism and it looks so dated now.
Okay.
Probably looked good for a year or two.
It looked great when I remember it blew my mind when I saw it. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool."
Well, same with Polar Express.
Good, like, man, it looks pretty quaint now.
True. Same with Polar Express and
Polar.
What is it? Christmas
I'm
Carol.
still of the opinion that Polar Express was a government-sponsored psyop, and it's Uncanny Valley on purpose. They're trying to just like mess with people's heads.
I still love it. My daughter loved it too. Yeah, definitely another topic. Let's see. This comment by Aurelio says, "Who do you think the armorer is? She's got those mild horns."
I think I know who the armorer is. Who do you guys think the armorer is?
I think he's actually right on the money. I think I think she could be that female super commando that we've seen in season 7 of Clone Wars. Yes, right.
Rook cast.
Because also like the way that like the shape of her helmet is like more like it's not that round sort of design. It's more like the sleek, like straight.
The pinched bird style eye slit is exactly the same as Rookcast's helmet as well.
Right, and the horns are like really small, and they were really small in her helmet as well.
I think that's a solid theory. I believe that is also who the armorer is. How cool would it be though? Like, how cool would it be if Rookcast is revealed as an identity in the Book of Boba Fett, and we learn of another relative, Jodocast, is out there in the galaxy, and eventually we're given a live action version of my favorite Boba Fett story from the expanded universe, Twin Engines of Destruction, from Dark Horse Comics, where Boba, freshly out of the Sarlacc, finds out that someone's been wearing Mandalorian armor and cashing in on his reputation to do bounty hunting work. He goes to find him. It's this clown named Jodocast, and they have basically the played out evil twin versus fight trope, but it's awesome. And featuring Dengar, it's a great ride. And so he was also a cast. That's where Rookcast is in fact a head nod reference to that clan.
Yeah, honestly, that would be super awesome. It would be kind of funny also then we would have gotten Cobb Vanth, who was like the not on purpose imposter, so to speak, of Boba. And then we would have had like the just straight like completely like copying Boba's identity just to get higher bounties. Jodocast, that would be actually really, really cool.
It would be I'm not sure that they're gonna do that. In fact, I would be very surprised if they did that. That's a wish that I have, but yeah, if a Rookcast, if we're getting a cast, it's probably going to be Rookcast though, because I do agree with that theory. I think she is the armorer. Makes sense why she'd be so gung ho about keeping your helmets on. She's kind of a Mandalorian war criminal in there.
It is also
it kind of behooves her for no one to know who she is.
Right, and it would also make sense because I mean, essentially, the people that the Mandalorian, so to speak, those were the people from Death Watch that like, or that those were the people that were originally Death Watch, and then they were under Maul's command, and then once Maul was gone, it would make sense why they would like call themselves something like the Children of the Watch.
Do you think that Paz Vizsla was ended up on the same side of the conflict as Bo-Katan initially, or did you think he stayed with Maul's house? Because it would have been his relative who was just beheaded in front of him. Do you think that would have inspired him to leave with Bo-Katan and the other Death Watch people that are out, or because that's what makes sense to me? However, he ends up with presumably Rookcast in the future, so maybe he was just hella cold and was like, "But Pre-Vizsla was weak. I'm staying here." You know,
my main question, yeah, right. But like my main question about that is more like how, like in what way is he a relative to Pre-Vizsla? Like I like he seems too old to be like a descendant of Pre-Vizsla.
I don't think it's a direct line. I think he's a cousin or a nephew,
or maybe a brother.
Well, I feel like the clan has to be at least like a dozen people off screen. It can't just be these.
Oh yeah,
we're always seeing like the single representatives of these houses. Like I think the House Wren is the only one that we've actually fleshed out because of Rebels.
Right, and we sort of.
I'm sure he's like not his son or his dad or whatever. You know, it's like
no, definitely
second cousin, twice removed, what have you.
Right, but yeah, Paz Vizsla is definitely an interesting story that we haven't gotten really anything so far.
Well, something interesting, Kyle.
Darksaber.
Something interesting you said in your reaction is if anyone has a strong claim to the Darksaber, it would be him. Like
if
he has
by blood, yeah.
Right. Well, obviously that's not how it works. But like, if anyone has like a strong, like, this is my reason for.
I mean, it's a compelling argument. My ancestor made this. That's a claim.
Right. Literally,
maybe not the strongest, but it is a claim for sure.
It's also kind of ironic because the armorer, like literally like 5 minutes before that, like is talking about like Bo-Katan, like her claim was purely on bloodline, and then literally Paz Vizsla comes along with like, yeah, my family made that sword. Like I sort of have a claim. Go fight me.
Yeah, I mean, as long as the claim ends with "come fight me," then it works. Then it's acceptable for the Mandalorians.
100%.
And the way I view it, I don't think that Din by Mandalorian decree necessarily won it in the correct way, because him taking it from Gideon is more like recovering an artifact from like a war spoils kind of situation, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
I don't think that necessarily, like, it wasn't like an Agni Kai, to use like an Avatar reference, which is how I think the duels go. Like Gar Saxon versus Sabine Wren. Absolutely like a Mandalorian Agni Kai. They're out there on the ice. Everyone's watching. Like everyone's like, don't interfere. I I think if the ship had been full of Mandalorians, I think they all would have bum rushed Moff Gideon. They wouldn't have just like let Din do his thing. They would have like wrestled it from him and then fought amongst themselves in a formal fashion to see who's the leader.
So then if that's the case, if Gideon didn't win it, if he took it from whatever, and we still don't know how he came into possession of it.
I don't see Moff Gideon winning it from Bo-Katan. I don't see it.
I do believe that he trained with it after getting it, though.
After, yeah. But
because
I don't
the way
think
he fights with it doesn't line up with what the armorer was saying about how
it doesn't look
heavy until you connect with it, which means he must have spent some time trying to connect with the blade. You know?
Yes.
He seems like someone who studied under Thrawn and therefore probably studied Mandalorian culture as he was laying siege to it. So he probably knows a thing or two about its history. We know that he does because he manipulated the traditions to get at Bo-Katan.
Speaking of the Night of 1,000 Tears.
Oh man.
That bomber sequence.
Painful to look at.
With the K2 droids crawling through.
That is literally like sort of a second Camino moment from Bad Batch. It's like you see MandaLORE, like you see
all these guys in the background.
The KX droids are so much more intimidating to me now than they ever have been before. I always thought that they were kind of like big, goofy, lumbering, like, danger, Will Robinson. But no, they're actually like Terminator. Terrifying.
I got that.
Here's a question about the Night of 1,000 Tears. Where do you rank it against Order 66 and the Raising of Camino? And do you think that what we saw is the absolute truth? Or do you think this is a case of unreliable narrator and the armorer is giving us like a version of what happened? Because it wouldn't be the first time Star Wars has given us the same flashback over and over again from different points of view.
That is
Maybe we're going to see the Night of 1,000 Tears again from Bo-Katan's perspective, and might be very different.
Actually, there are 3 sides of the story as far as I see it right now. So in Mando Season 2, first of all, we've had basically once MandaLORE was mentioned, Boba Fett himself says, "MandaLORE, the Empire turned that planet to glass." So he's pretty sure it's completely just wiped out. And then Bo-Katan, the way she comes at him, seems very convinced that it's still okay to go back to. And now the armor is like, yeah, no, it's completely done. Like,
right.
So I don't know.
I think there's no disputing that the planet got like hit with a base Delta Zero, at least, probably nuked. I guess the question is like, how did it come to that? Might be different, you know?
Who provoked whom and why?
Armor saying it was Bo-Katan. Bo-Katan's going to be like, well, these jerks up here on this moon of Concordia didn't do anything to help.
And she might just be convincing herself this happened because you didn't get the Darksaber the correct way. You brought this upon us. Like, she could be so into the whole cult.
That's, I think, the brilliance of Moff Gideon and of the Night of 1,000 Tears and how culturally damaging it is to the Mandalorians is because Bo-Katan was given it in a non-traditional way. It was handed to her peacefully. And the fact that it was such a huge ultimate failure is going to absolutely reinforce everyone's cultural superstitions surrounding the Darksaber. And it's going to be so damaging to their cultural memory as a people. Like, as she said, scattered to the 4 corners of the galaxy.
And it's also an awesome way to justify or explain why, because like in the Clone Wars, the Mandalorians seem more or less not that into their culture anymore. Like, I mean, they take off their helmets and stuff, and I think like this sort of event explains it really well, why there would be more extreme sects building themselves and like really intensifying like what being a Mandalorian is about. So yeah, I mean, honestly, those things make total sense with an event like that.
Yeah, it was always the case that Mandalorians would take their helmets off. The mythos really came from Boba Fett himself not taking his helmet off, and people just kind of like extended that onto Mandalorians in general because he was kind of our focal point for knowing anything about Mandalore, just because he wore Mandalorian armor,
That is true. But again, then in the prequels, we got Jango, who also took his helmet off quite a bit.
One of the lines that really, really stood out to me when the armorer was talking, and this is probably just me looking for what I wanted, but as she was getting her tools out of that little chest, she was talking about the mythosaurs and the lineage of the Mandalorians and stuff, and she said a line that really hit me. It said, "Sadly, it only exists in Legends." And I
I
don't
caught
know
that
about you
too.
guys, but that felt to me how I've been feeling about so many stories, Knights of the Old Republic, the Bane trilogy, like all these other things. It's like, sadly, it only exists in Legends. A lot of stuff is being brought in to this, like talking about Tar Vizsla, the Darksaber history, the different Kyber crystals, like all this stuff is being brought in.
Yeah, you could
Where I
hear that line
previously
as
felt
sort of
that way.
like a nod, like it's only exists in Legends, but just you wait because we're bringing some Legends in. Remember, Harrison Dula on Star Wars Rebels said there's always a little bit of truth in Legends, and later on that season, Grand Admiral Thrawn showed up for the first time.
Yep.
That is true. Plus,
They
I
do like
mean,
to tease these things.
it's not the first time. What's up? It's not the first time that we have heard the show, at least in my opinion, talk to the audience, because there, to my knowledge, were like 3 points where it was fairly clear that they were mentioning what they think the audience is going to react like. The first one is probably the one with "No one respects you." I felt like that was something that a lot of people have been saying, like, no one respects Boba. And the fact that they just outright said it in the show felt like, yeah, we know that you think that. Just you wait. Then the second one was when Fennec sits around the fire with Boba, and she's like, "The Tuskens have made you soft," which is also something that a lot of fans after like those episodes have been saying, like, Boba Fett seems soft. Like, what is going on? Like, he doesn't seem like he's in season 2, or like the character he was in season 2. And now with the Mythosaur, and there's actually another part that I want to go into later, but it really feels like that's like the one thing about the grapes that I have with the show that is giving me hope, because it seems so directly focused to or directed towards the audience. And I'm like, okay, they know 100% what they're doing. They know 100% how we're going to react. And that is like essentially where I'm building my hope on certain things. Because it seems so Filoni or Dave. In that case, more Dave because he wrote the show. But
Filoni wrote the episode that comes out on Wednesday, so
yeah, really
prepare for
hyped for that.
some heartstrings to get pulled on.
Yes.
I do feel the same way about a lot of lines that is not necessarily directly spoken to us, but they know how we're going to take certain lines. And that goes back to the passion. Like, I feel that the people making this are truly passionate about the lore that they're adding into it, the way that we're going to take certain lines or certain scenes. Like, they know how we're going to feel about the N1 coming back in. Like, they know we're going to freak out just because of a little yellow ship. Like they know those things. And so that more than anything gives me hope for the rest of the show and the future shows, that they know what they're doing despite what the media flip flops on how they like it or not. So anything else about Mandalorians you guys want to throw in there?
I mean,
I think we haven't seen the last of Mandalorians greater than just the ones we know. I think we're going to see some new, fresh Mandos. Hopefully, next season of Mandalorian, we actually go to MandaLORE. That's definitely what they're hinting at. But oh man, it's going to be cool. It's going to be really dark if we go there, though.
I lost the comment up somewhere. I don't remember what it was, but someone said something about Din Djarin is kind of being set up to be Mandalore, to be the leader of the Mandalorians, and he doesn't want to be. He doesn't want the Darksaber and all of this.
Why he's worthy.
Right. And then someone else had already pointed out in a different stream a couple days ago or something. I can't remember. I watched so much. Boba Fett is also being set up to be the leader. You know, you can only get so far without a tribe.
Guilty.
How does that come into play?
I really don't know how to reconcile the two theories, because someone's going to rule Mandalore. I think that Din Djarin will rule Mandalore, and that Boba Fett is going to plateau as a daimyo. He's going to like enter a new phase of storytelling of like Tales from Boba's Palace is going to be like the next chapter, and that's going to span the next 30 years leading up to the sequel trilogy, somehow concluding in a way that explains why he's not involved.
So,
you know?
The thing why I personally like to theorize about Boba becoming the Mandalore, first of all, because I just like the idea, because in Legends he did become Mandalore.
Totally. It would be some nice symmetry there.
But the other thing that is like slowly but surely building up in my mind, why it just seems so there are too many like sort of side things that sort of start to connect. And the thing is, with Boba, we've like pretty much only seen him kick ass with melee weapons, and not like I don't think he has fired his blaster once the entire season so far. Pretty sure. I think the only
Mando?
times when he beat up Boba.
Oh, he used his wrist rocket to pulverize that one
Okay,
dude.
the wrist rocket, but like he
leaving
didn't use
Madagascar's
blasters.
establishment.
Right. But like overall, he has been highly.
Oh, he also used the
prioritizing
cycler
melee
rifle to
combat.
take 2 people out of the Tashi station before it jammed, and then he went melee only. So that's 3 shots I can think of. But other than that,
You're right.
I wanted to interrupt you, but I get your point.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
I get it. But like overall, he has been highly utilizing melee combat, and the thing
He's a strong
is,
virile Maori warrior, man. He's got to use those Taiaha skills. That's
And he lived
what
with the
he's doing.
Tuskens for 5 years.
I love it. And the thing is,
9 years. Yeah.
no,
No,
it can
5
only
years.
be
It's 9 ABY.
five.
Yeah, 5 years
Five
after.
or six. 5
5
or
years.
6.
Yes, it's in there. But yeah,
Yeah,
a
right.
significant amount of time spent with the Tuskens. I really enjoyed how they fleshed out Tusken culture in general. It really gave us a nice look inside it and how they incorporated so many different aspects of real world human indigenous peoples.
Mhm.
That's such
Yes.
awesome representation. And I saw so many positive responses from indigenous people that watched the episode that really felt like a little piece of their culture was in there. And that's really, really cool. And if that's like a tool that Star Wars can do that, bring more people in that way, then I'm 100% on board with that. That
Well,
being said, I was
it's-
really disappointing that they all died in the next episode.
Yeah.
I was like, come on.
Well,
Like,
it's flipping the trope in the Western movies where the savages are the savages and the cowboys are always the good guys. Like we got to see their culture. Like these are people too, even though they got slaughtered like animals. And I've said before,
Not just the men.
but the women and the child too with this little stick.
yeah.
That hit
Yeah,
me.
man, it's too bad.
Yeah. All right. I won't ramble too long because I know I do get driven into stuff that I.
Oh, is
really...
this about the armor change?
No, it's not the armor change.
Oh.
No, I'm going to finish my point why
Oh, okay.
I theorize about Boba becoming Mandalore. So, Boba highly utilizing melee combat in the show. Din, on the other hand, while he does manage to kill some people with the Darksaber, with things like cutting himself and like him fighting against the blade, it's kind of setting someone up to be a highly utilizing melee combat guy and one that is not really, or at least is not able to. And then the other thing that has been just completely been going crazy in my mind was when the armor is mentioning like the Mythosaur also kind of being this symbol of like the Mandalore writing on it. And then I was thinking, isn't Boba planning to ride a Rancor?
The Mythosaur was indirectly canonized when Boba talks about having ridden much larger.
Right. Well, that's
because he's referring to the events of the holiday special.
Yeah.
Which was not a Mythosaur, right? It was a
No, it was not a Mythosaur.
Something
it's like a great big pink plesiosaur.
Right.
Yeah.
Ichtha something. Someone in the chat, please help me.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
Throw it in here for us. I don't remember what it's called.
And plus, it would be a nice callback because Jango would have been the rightful Mandalore if Death Watch wouldn't have been asses.
I think that to expand on what you're saying about how he's training to do a lot of melee focused things, I think that the next season of The Mandalorian is going to boil down to a duel for the Darksaber. Like that's what the culminating event's going to be. Is it going to be Din versus Boba, or is it going to be Din versus Bo-Katan? Because it's definitely going to be Din versus someone as the holder of the Darksaber.
Yes.
He's got to be in there. But I think that this training might not necessarily be to make him a melee heavy character. He might continue to use ranged weapons, and this just is sort of like his narrative arc is gearing up for the sword fight to take the throne of Mandalore, which would be equally badass, I think.
Yeah.
X-Wing says something right here. Din was going to lose that fight until he lost the Darksaber. I completely agree.
You're talking
against
about against
Vizsla fight? Yeah, he was definitely going to lose until he until
It's true.
Paz
It's true.
took the
He had him on
Darksaber.
strength alone. I mean, he's a Vizsla, you know. You gotta give him credit for that.
And hand to hand without the Darksaber, I think Paz Vizsla wins that any day.
Dude was built he's huge.
Look at that
It's
guy.
only because he took the Darksaber up, and it was his arrogance, essentially, of saying, this is mine, it's rightfully mine, that caused him to be slow and too heavy and lose. I think if he didn't pick it up and he just finished the fight with just his vibroblade, he would have won. For sure.
His gauntlet was bigger than Mando's helmet.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah, seriously, the dude was massive. I was really nervous that the Darksaber was going to go flying into space.
Yeah.
Especially because no one was wearing a jetpack. That would
I
have
know,
been
Right?
gone.
No one could go get it.
The vacuum of space Jawas would get it.
By the way, when that episode started, I was sort of expecting a
Yeah.
Right. A lot of people went to Halo immediately, and I think that it's one of those moments that really shows the generations, whether you grew up with Halo or if you grew up with Ringworld, the Larry Niven book series, which was like the big go-to moment. Like if you think of a big ring in space, it was Ringworld, definitely. And then Halo came out, and everyone thinks of Halo. But it's funny. That's one of those moments that really like everyone's age is suddenly like on display.
Yeah. Well, and then I thought back and I was like, have we seen similar stations before? And like the only thing I could really think of was like Ring of Vinda, like in Clone Wars. It was around the planet, but essentially it was still a ring.
Yes, yes, kind of like Kuat drive yards in configuration.
Yes,
we've had a lot of really interesting ideas, like the Ring of Catherine and Rogue One, which was two asteroids kind of connected with like a metropolitan city in the middle. That's kind of cool.
Right.
We had Cato Nemoidia with the hanging cities, which is a cool idea too. But yeah, ring worlds. Like, I need to know more. How many of them are there? Are they like everywhere off screen? Are they rare? Are they ancient? Who builds them? Who maintains them?
Well, and also I'm not sure it's an entire ring,
like what?
Because at some points I was sort of questioning whether or not it's a complete ring or if it like actually ends at some point.
It looked like it was it was too complete to be a C shape, but not completely closed.
Right, exactly. That was like what I kind of noticed.
And I think the gap represented that rectangular shadow, the patch of black that kept traveling across.
Yes.
Was from the opening of the ring, letting the light source in. It's a fascinating idea. It's such classic sci-fi imagery, and I'm here for it. I'm a big retrofuturist myself. So
Stephanie, we talked about that earlier. Definitely seems like it.
Yep.
Yeah, my money's on it being rook cast for sure. Which, you know, the more you think about it, the more it makes sense.
The more it makes sense.
All these different reasons.
By the way, what'd you guys think of the dancing on that station? Like the KOTOR,
they're doing the KOTOR dances?
Yeah. Dude, I loved it. I said that in my reaction. I loved it. I'm like, oh, that's KOTOR. They're like super like awkward dancing. Oh, sure. By the way.
Nice.
Yes. Just a quick little plug, if I may, for Kyle's merch store. Definitely pick up this shirt. It is very comfortable.
The Beard Trooper. Yeah, usually, they make really nice soft shirts.
Usually like merch stores, like I know Teespring, it's just like plain cotton. I gotta change my store. But usually like
I have no complaints. Real soft.
Usually like merch t-shirts are generally just crappy t-shirts with a logo on it and then sold for like 5 times more than it should be. This one is very soft. I could sleep in it. I think I took a nap in it once. But it's very nice. So go ahead and get yourself one of the grizzled lizard
I feel like that
mustache.
brings us so much closer. You took a nap in my shirt. That's such an intimate interaction.
Well, I'm definitely gonna get a clone trooper, a Phase 2 clone helmet with the mustache, kind of like I did in the thumbnail.
So
but just like better quality.
Definitely.
Instead of like Photoshop on my phone, like I'm gonna do it right and get that on a shirt, and then you can take a nap in it.
There you go. Challenge accepted.
There you go.
Yeah, but definitely go get yourself, for everyone watching, go get yourself the bearded stormtrooper shirt because it is very nice. Yeah.
Yep.
It's true. That's canon. It's a nice shirt.
It is canon.
Anyway, they were built by the Forerunners, you know?
Of course.
No, it was built by the Bothans, the most mysterious species in all of Star Wars.
Many Bothans died to get that information.
I wonder how many Bothans died to build the damn ring world.
For real. But yeah, going into Boba again, the
Totally a
only thing
mangle.
that I personally have sort of a problem with, that's literally like one of the main or only things that has been bugging me since the trailers came out, and that's the armor. Pretty sure when you guys were on, I wrote like a comment. When, by the way, I'm thankful that none of my clones have shown up yet.
Oh, this
No,
the
last time
strike
it went a bit crazy.
722, strike 723.
It got to like 1,000 or something.
Nice.
Anyway. But yeah, I actually prepared something, which I guess we could talk about. I essentially made a little presentation of essentially the changes to Boba's armor from season 2 to the show, which I sort of, I mean, it's one of these things that I would personally like. I know most people haven't even noticed yet. I'm pretty alone on that one, but it's one of these things that I would at least like to have an explanation. I know probably at this point, probably not, but just going through everything. I don't know. It has been sort of, especially with the helmet. Um, it's been kind of like bugging me the fact that it's a different one, because essentially my whole argument is Mandalorian armor is not like Darth Vader's suit. Like Darth Vader always like upgraded his suit. That's why it's always different in like every movie
Right.
essentially. But with Mandalorian armor, and especially in Boba's case, that is literally the same set of armor that his dad wore. That's like just the set of armor. So
Well, not the helmet, but yes.
is that
He blew the
that's
helmet
not?
up in a trap in an episode of the Clone Wars, trying to kill Mace Windu
Didn't
on
they
board
write?
a
I'm
crashed Venator cruiser.
pretty sure
The
they
reason
left
he
that
doesn't wear the
open.
shin pads is because he then melted them down to form a new helmet out of that Beskar.
I remember Filoni at some point being asked about this, and he was like, "Yeah, sort of like Filoni always does this. Like, you'll never know. Like, it could be one way
Right.
or the other." So
That's
I
the
always kind of
that's
assumed it was a fake sort of helmet, because I just don't see him, like, just because of the emotional value to it. I just don't see Boba blowing up the original helmet.
well, the way I always interpreted it was that it was a self-destructive act for himself emotionally as well, because he is so tortured from the fact that he doesn't have his father.
Hmm.
He's lashing out at Mace, trying to kill Mace, and he's also punishing himself for not being able to save his dad. You know, he was right there; he didn't do anything. That's the way that it's articulated in the Boba Fett, the young Boba Fett novels, that he talks
Hmm.
about
I
the
have
regret
that. I
that he
haven't
felt
read it.
about Django, and it's really
Yeah.
sad. It's really sad to read through that. But that was
Yeah.
always my understanding, is that it was not the Django helmet, but it could have been a decoy that was used as the bomb, I suppose.
Yeah, it's one of these things that we haven't gotten like the 100% answer.
Right.
But I personally just always kind of assumed that Boba would not use the original, like the actual helmet. But
Well, I
that's
don't know. I
just
mean,
my
is he a really
headcanon.
sentimental guy, or is he this killer? Like,
No, the thing is,
what
he
box
has
do we want to put
major
him in?
daddy issues, and that's sort of where his whole argument comes about.
Right,
I
but
wasn't actually
people
done.
with the issues are the ones that destroyed their dead father's helmets. You know, people
Yeah,
who are totally well adjusted just put it in a little box over there on the mantelpiece.
right. But yeah, so
He's an unhinged quest for revenge territory at the time. That's like where his headspace is, and not to mention,
right.
he's under the instruction and mentorship of Aura Singh of all people
Which,
during this
by the
time of his
way,
life, dude. Not the best influence.
right. And like, just to get that out of the actually, let's get into the later. But Aura Singh actually has a good point for the show in general. Wait, just going through this real quick. I mean, just the fact that it's different is like visible because of like the way it's shaped. It's simply different shape. Visor different. The whole shape of that is different.
I did notice a lot of these changes as well.
Right. So the damage, like that one, is also pretty noticeable. Like the back is like bulged to the outside instead of like the classic inside.
Mm-hmm.
Gauntlet, bigger in the original one. The new one is like shorter and like more compact. Jetpack, essentially just the missile is different one, different type he's using,
Well,
and
that
this
makes
one,
sense. He's fired the missile multiple times. He
oh
wouldn't
no,
be buying the
100%. That
exact
one
same
is,
ones from the same, like 30 years later. Got the same manufacturer giving him ammo.
yeah, no, I'm not bothered about that one. This one kind of I can't really wrap my head around. It's like the free EE freeze in the Book of Boba Fett. So we have the correct one they've always used. We have the shiny one with like the scope halfway shiny, and then we have the nightmare fuel version with that is like super short. But yeah, I don't know. It's just something I noticed, and I personally, because he has such great value to the armor and the way they explain it in season 2 also, like he wants that armor.
Right, but you know that it's not really, there is no actual Beskar armor that the actor can wear, right? You know that doesn't exist. Like how they can't make it exactly perfect. Like I noticed those changes too, but I didn't care because it's styrofoam, dude. Like,
but okay, so counter
it's never
argument.
going to be identical. Like,
well, but
I don't know. I can't believe you just made a PowerPoint to talk about the biggest nitpick I've ever seen in my life.
I love it. I love it. If we can't be sweaty, then why are we here?
That's so sweaty. That's so sweaty. Like,
I know, dude. I'm
for the record, I
love
those changes too, but I don't care.
No, the thing is, why would they go out of their way to recreate the exact same bullet holes and stuff from Return of the Jedi, and then completely change it in Book of Boba Fett, even though they've already done it like completely accurate in Mando
he got the holes filled in. You know, he got it smelted. I mean, like it's not uncommon for Mandalorians to change their kit. Din Djarin got a little mudhorn slapped on.
No,
just because he completed one quest, he made a permanent change to his pauldron for the rest of forever. Like, how significant was that mudhorn? Like, he killed one animal, and now it's forever on his kit. I don't think it's out of the range of possibility for Boba with his daimyo connections to be like, hey, do we have anyone in town that can just like reforge that thing for me? He doesn't really care about Mandalorian culture, so I don't think that he would have like a conniption if he had to use a non-Mandalorian forge to heat up his breastplate and hammer it back down, you know?
That's a good point. That's a good point right there.
Yeah. I don't know.
True. That's true.
Personally...
The specs are out there for all the world to see.
Yeah.
I just don't think anything like that is ever going to affect my watching
of course
of
not.
the show,
but
you know?
you might
that's
show
the sort of
up
thing
with
you
Return
catch
the
on
Jedi
like the third
versus
watch.
Book
Like
of
we were
Boba
talking
Fett.
about watching things over and over again, you know?
Right.
Like that's
it's just one of these things I personally just prefer the OG trilogy look. It's me. It's me. Just like, but it's just one of these things that I would personally want sort of an answer for in universe, but it's one of these things most of the time we don't get an in-universe answer for these things. So,
or at least we don't get it on screen. If they feel like they have to give us an answer, it's some sort of like supplemental material. Like it'll be a comic book or a novel or a game or, you know, or a weird message in the middle of Fortnite.
Right.
They'll find a way to work it in there.
Touching on this real quick, what Aiden says, I think that's the answer to the wrong question. Unless you're talking specifically who's stronger or more powerful or something objective like that. But as far as like better character, that's so subjective. Why not both?
I mean, it's a personal opinion. You can like one more than the other.
As Boba being my favorite character, Aiden, F you. I know Aiden, so it's okay. The other thing that I wanted to like talk about, because it's sort of one of these things that I've been super not upset about, but a lot of people have been upset about it. The fire spray thing. One of the personally dumbest things to be mad about in history of Star Wars.
Absolutely.
And for a really dumb reason. The only reason why people are mad about it is because of the whole name change rumor that was like floating about and was completely getting blown out of the water. Maybe that is like an unpopular take. My take is if that whole controversy or rumor wouldn't have happened, that would have been one of the probably most how do I say that? Most rewarding scenes, or like most enjoyed scenes in terms of like lore. Because I mean, the fire spray is the type of ship that the Slave One is. It's mentioned by name.
Yeah.
In the Bounty Hunter game, Django literally says like, "Oh, it's a fire spray special."
That comes from the expanded universe before 2002. Back in 1997, what's his name? J.D. Montgomery published a book called "A Barb Like That," a Boba Fett story, where it talks about it being a fire spray class ship. That's also the first time that we get the name Jaster Muriel or Concord Dawn. So Slave One has been a fire spray class ship since like before the prequels even existed.
Right. And the way they went about it, I mean, that's the other thing, which I find highly funny that people bring it up. Oh, he should have said Slave One. Like, he should have just said Slave One.
No longer
And
its
then I'm like,
name, though.
do you know how many people on screen ever said Slave One? One. And it's Aurra Sing and Clone
And
Wars.
its name was Slave One. That's the thing that people don't understand, is that it's not like they're trying to go back and change history. Right. This fire spray class ship was named Slave One until the year 9 ABY, when Boba had a couple indigenous like experiences, lived as a slave literally for a little while, got some perspective, and decided, you know what, I'm not going to call it that anymore. And that is absolutely his right as the owner of the ship, and that doesn't change anything about the past.
Right.
It was always Slave One for all that time. It's still called Slave One on Wikipedia because that is its canon name for most of its existence. Well, but it's not its name anymore.
No,
and
it's
that's
still Slave One because of the way they address it, because of the way, well, he says...
Well, yeah, until he comes out specifically. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll tell you what. You tell me when they say Slave One on screen from here on out. You let me know when that happens, okay?
I'm just saying the way he
said it. It can be one of those you can't prove that it's not kind of things, and you're allowed to be correct about that. But we both know they're never saying that name on screen again.
Oh, 100%. But the way they say it right now, it's not like
it leaves it open.
The name has changed.
If they were going to address it, that was the proper way to address it, because they didn't come out and say Slave One and anger the people that might get upset with that.
Well,
and they didn't change it to help me get my ship named the Firefly or whatever. Like, he didn't specifically say it was a name change.
It's important to think about the context of the situation too. Even if he was still calling it the Slave One, if you're talking to someone you've never met before, and I'm like, if I call my car Betsy and I'm in the parking lot with you, I'm like, hey, let's go find Betsy. You'd be like, what the hell are you talking about? But if I'm like, hey, let's go find my blue Toyota Acura or whatever, you'll be like, oh yeah, totally. Okay, that makes sense. You're a normal
human being. To my argument, I mean, Boba in the OT wasn't running around telling people the name of his ship. Most people didn't know the name of his ship. Literally, only the people he worked with or the people that were close to him knew the name.
Well, it's a bounty hunter ship. You're not supposed to know it exists until you're frozen in carbonite.
Before it's too late.
That's why Din loves those pre-Empire models, because they don't have transponder beacons. Also, and I love that being a detail we got in the Bad Batch. Seeing chain codes and transponders and everything being set up as part of like the hierarchy of fascism that was taking over the government. Like that's very, because we had all these questions. We started hearing chain code this and chain code that in the Mandalorian, just enough to get us curious. And then a few months later in the Bad Batch, we get those answers. I love the way that Disney's rolling out the information in those ways. You know?
Yes.
Well, like it also proves to me that there's cohesion between the different shows, because as different as Book of Boba Fett and the Bad Batch are, like, that's a detail that they're sharing, that and Mandalorian. Like, there is cohesion among the different shows. It's not like, you know, we have the Mandalorian and then Ahsoka and then Andor, like, and they're completely going to be different. Like, I'm pretty sure Lucasfilm knows what they're doing, connecting those dots. And going back to something that someone touched on earlier, talking about the rumor, I think it was you, Strike. The rumor came out of, oh, they're changing the name of the Slave One. Like, how could they be erasing this and stuff? I feel that's the same way with the High Republic.
See, there you go. You threw the word erasing in there. That's not the same thing as changing, my dude. Changing and erasing aren't the same thing. You're reacting to something getting erased when it's just getting changed.
It's the response that people have to those rumors that alter their perception of whatever it is. With the High Republic, I've never read a single High Republic book or comic or whatever.
Oh, they are great. I can recommend them.
I know that, and I was just going to touch on that. X-Wing, the guy in the chat, he was part of that group too. Don't want anything to do with it because of the rumors, not necessarily believing everything they're about. But if there's so many rumors around this thing, maybe I don't really want to invest my money into it. He bought a Republic book, High Republic book, and loved it. And now I'm open to looking into that and seeing that. But the rumor is what does the damage. People hear the rumor and they spread the rumor and make it way worse.
Right.
If we take it down to the source, there's a name change on a Lego set. Like, how consequential is that? It's
God, don't even bring up Lego when it's about.
And it was not the first Lego set ship to have the name changed.
No,
the Bad Batch's Havoc Marauder is just called the Bad Batch's Attack Shuttle now.
They have gone back and forth between calling ships the actual name and then just calling it like the character, and then that ship's that character's ship as the name. So yeah, Lego is definitely not the way to prove your point on that one.
Right. Well, I just think that the rumors definitely get out of hand. People are looking to complain about anything.
Oh, easily, because
And
outrage gets the clicks.
Of
exactly.
That's what
course.
sells.
Right.
The most upset 5 people make the most noise.
It's true. It's
Right.
true.
Yeah. I will say my parting words on that whole interaction is, for me personally, the way I sort of viewed it was Fennec wouldn't know what Slave One is, so Boba told her, "Yeah, help me get my fire spray gunship." And the gunship is the point where I'm like, "Yeah, they didn't change the name because why would he say like he didn't name his ship fire spray gunship? I mean, he would call it fire spray." That's like the point where I'm like, "Yeah, it didn't even
Well, we
change
know
the
from the
name."
Hound what kind of people name their swords. So maybe Boba thinks the same kind of people name their ships.
I'm not even arguing against that, but I'm just saying if you don't like them changing the name at all, just view it like that, and you're good to go.
Well, here's a very important thing that I think that a lot of people don't think about when you get upset that something gets changed, is that like we've all grown up with Star Wars. We're all very like intimately familiar with all of these things, with the Slave One, with Boba's armor, all of these things. And for people like us, watching these shows is like watching some stranger playing with your action figures. You know what I mean? And you're no longer in the driver's seat, and you got to watch them make the story. And you're like, no, but he doesn't shoot like that. He like he goes like this,
Mm,
and it's really hard for us to like kind of take a step away and not have that sense of ownership of this thing anymore. It's easy to feel entitled to a certain kind of story because that's the story we've been playing with our toys since we were little kids.
right.
And that's absolutely the mindset that we go back into when we see these shows. Some stranger is playing with your action figures, and you've got to be okay with it. And if they want to call the ship a different name, you've got to be able to be like, in your head, in my head canon, I know what it's really called. I'm just going to continue, kind of
Right.
thing.
Exactly my
Because
point.
that's always the way it's going to be. Where we're
Yep.
always going to feel a sense of like entitlement and ownership of something that we love so deeply. Like, how can you not?
Right.
How can you not?
Of course. I think that is a great point. And I mean, essentially, what you just said, I mean, that's like the thing. Like, yeah, like my Boba Fett action figure has the armor of season 2, and I don't want anyone to change it. It doesn't ruin the show for me. I will personally have like my personal like down under somewhere in my mind grape with it. Like it doesn't ruin the show for me. Of course, if they would explain it, I would be like, "Oh, I love you guys," but yeah, it's just one of these things. You have your preferences, you have your favorite characters, and you have your own opinions. And
Your personal relationship with a character will always be valid, and no one
Where
can take that away from you. You just need to remind yourself that like a new story might replace something in Legends with a new piece of canon, but it doesn't replace your own personal relationship with that part of the media. And that's why I had to make sure to make a distinction between the word changed and the word erased, because Legends have been changed. The expanded
mm,
universe, its status is not the same as it was.
yes,
It hasn't been erased. Those books are still there behind me. I could pick any one of them up and read the story and have a great old time. Like no one is stopping me from doing that.
right. And that is a great point because that's like, I mean, literally some of my favorite stories that have 100% been replaced. Like, since we have season 7 of the Clone Wars, like, the whole thing with Labyrinth of Evil is gone. I mean, in canon words, but I love those stories and I will keep loving those stories in a parallel universe. That is, like, still what happens in that sort of
Absolutely.
storyline for me. And like same for Dark Lord. I mean, that is not even you could still technically make that work in canon. So I mean, that's even more great.
My
But
my personal like thing is that like until it's explicitly
right,
contradicted by something in canon, then it still
right,
exists,
and especially if it still works with like other pieces of canon.
Exactly. Like who's to say the Hapes cluster isn't still out there until I'm told that something else is in that place on the galaxy map,
Right. Yes.
And I think where I draw my line as far as that issue is when people try to tell other people to feel the same way they do.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
I'm never like Kyle. I'm never going to convince you that the sequels are 100% bad or anything like
No,
that.
because your experience with the sequels is totally valid to you,
Exactly.
just like mine is to me. And we
And
don't necessarily we don't have to agree.
right, and someone that loves every single Star Wars piece of media except the Phantom Menace, I'm never going to be able to convince them that the Phantom Menace is a great movie because I can't change how they feel. And so when people try to tell other people you have to feel this way, or you're not a Star Wars fan, or you have to hate this or like
That's
this, or
gatekeeping, and that will
right,
never be okay on either
exactly.
side, you know? And I hate to use
Yeah.
the word side because I think it's very problematic that there's this whole subculture today talking about how it's us versus them, you know?
Mm,
I will say this louder for the people in the back. Loving Star Wars is not a team sport.
Right.
We're all
yes.
Star
Yep.
Wars fans. We're all
Yes.
here to enjoy this thing, you know. Some of us, if hating on it and like complaining and nitpicking is like how you get your rocks off, that's fine. Like that's a valid experience, and that's how you celebrate your love
Right.
of the fandom. But don't tell someone else how to enjoy it or how to
Yeah.
not enjoy it. Like if someone says I love it for X, Y, and Z, there's really no real reason why you need to jump into those comments and start
Right.
talking about why X, Y, and Z are bad, you know, or why
Right.
that person is dumb for liking it.
Right.
And
Yeah.
that I
Right.
think is just a matter of etiquette. Like, can we highlight X-Wing's comment right here? Say so that starts with Kyle. I agree. However, when we're upset that that they changed an image, and then you're chastised for being upset about it, yes, that's absolutely an issue. And I will say this: is that it is never a problem for you to disagree with something or to have a problem with Star Wars. It's all about how you express that opinion.
Right.
It's about being
100%.
respectful to other people.
I
A
think
lot of the
tech
chastising
actually.
that I see is people clowning on some rather insensitive takes that are going out there. As long as you're being respectful to other people around you and you're inviting that energy back to you, I don't think anyone should be hurting anyone's feelings. I don't think there's any reason why
Yes.
we can't have a discourse as Star Wars fans about our various opinions, which range all across the board. You know,
Right.
it doesn't always have to turn into a squabble. Which with Star Wars fans, man, we got the worst reputation. You guys know that we got like the worst damn
100%.
fandom reputation.
Yeah.
Like other fans think about Star Wars, they're like, oh, give them a wide berth. They're all crazy over there.
Yeah.
Right.
It has always been like that. I mean, look at I mean, I grew up with the prequels, so when at some point when I first got on the internet and I found out that people were blatantly hating on the prequels, I was like,
Yeah.
what? What? So
It's disappointing when you're so excited to talk about it with other people, and then you log on and you're like, oh, everyone hates this.
I'm not even kidding. When I first got on like the internet and stuff and saw that stuff, for quite a while it hindered me commenting on any videos, honestly, because I felt like I was in the minority of really just completely loving the prequels. And
And
I
that
like
creates a very
slowly,
skewed image of how
I have
many people
honestly
like them.
been really just myself and alone with like my fandom, and like I've been watching people. I've been watching your videos. I've not really commented that much, but like that comes basically out of that time still, and like by channels like X-Wing. Shout out to X-Wing. You've sort of been like one of those channels that has like opened the discourse between fans, just not being afraid or not being hostile about sharing their opinions of Star Wars. And I think that is like something really important that more people should encourage, because I know when I was a kid, I literally like I didn't want to like get my opinions out there about the prequels because I thought like people were gonna shoot me down basically.
Sure, it's like such a hot button issue and such a dangerous subject to bring up. It still is for some people, you know,
Mm,
the frickin' prequels, even in 2022, that'll still trigger some people to go on a rant. And
Yep.
I don't know. At what point is there no help for you anymore?
yeah.
At
Right.
what point are you just a curmudgeon? But no,
Yeah.
I completely agree. And I think that it boils back to the very first thing that we were talking about tonight, which is watching something more than once time has passed, and how your opinion, like your opinion of Force Awakens, looking at the prequels. Simon Pegg talking about how, like, you know, joking in his TV show Spaced about how the prequels were so awful and like burning his merchandise. Like he had a whole joke about that.
Mm,
And then, you know, ate his words, decided after a time had passed that they were like a classic part, like a cult classic.
right.
People can change their opinions even after being very like embarrassingly public about hating something, which
Mm.
you know can suck. I'm guilty of that too.
Which isn't even a problem, which is like sort of like I've been sort of with like some people in our community have sort of been on a fun way making fun of it, but I was sort of like always like back and forth about like liking certain parts of Book of Boba so far and then not liking something. And for some reason it's contradicting your point if you decide that one episode you don't like that much and one you like really much. It's just confusing to me because I'm just having my opinion in the moment of I feel that is right and for me that is wrong. um yeah, I don't know, something really really that I don't personally understand why you need to be consistent about liking certain stuff. But
No, it's I don't know. Some people feel like it's a form of loyalty, but I think you should form your own opinions. I mean,
right.
Disney does not need nerds like us to defend it. They're doing just fine.
Yeah.
They'll be just fine without us. If you have a
Exactly.
criticism about something, then that's fine. But if you have hated every single episode thus far and you're still tuning in to watch episode 6, I have to ask you, what are you doing here?
Like you're
there are
literally
people
giving
that
the company money that you don't even like the show they're producing.
Right. You're paying for your subscription. You're watching it. You watch, like, you read the comics so you can complain about the comics. You go pay movie tickets so you can complain about them. Like, these people are also out there. And those are the people. I don't understand these people. Like, if it's your pastime, it's your pastime, but it's not healthy. I don't think it's healthy behavior.
No,
The Last Jedi came out 6 years ago. You know,
Get over it.
people still post about it every day.
Right.
6 years ago.
That is crazy. Actually,
That does seem like
just
a
thinking about
very
it.
long time ago.
Yeah, right.
Jeez.
Gives me gray hairs just thinking about it.
Shane says everyone has different tastes. We're all fans here, and yeah, it comes down to what do you want out of it. If it's not giving you what you're wanting out of it, then you just don't pick and choose. Star Wars is a buffet at this point. There's so much Star Wars media.
So much.
Go watch Clone Wars again if you like that.
Right. There's so many options. I posted a poll on Twitter about, like, how do you take your Star Wars? Do you prefer the dark and gritty? Do you like the campy and retro, spiritual and weird? Overwhelmingly, everyone says a little bit of everything. You know?
Yeah.
Because that's what makes
World
Star Wars.
building. Make me feel like it's a real place. That's it for me.
And I don't know. You can't expect to love every piece of everything because it's not all going to be for you and your sensibility.
Well, just like the mechanic lady. Like,
Exactly.
That's
someone
not for
out there
me.
loves that mechanic lady. I'm sure. Right. I think she's great personally, but she's not my favorite character.
Right.
If I had to pick a favorite character, oh man, I don't know. I think that Fennec Shand is just so cool. I really love Fennec, and Ming-Na Wen is so much fun to watch.
And Ming-Na Wen on top, it's so awesome. Like, that's what I've been like when I watched like galleries. I was just like, my heart just melted every time like Dave or John were even speaking about like the slightest sort of sweaty thing about Star Wars. It was just glorious, and like Ming-Na Wen being an open fan as well, it's just awesome.
I love that they knew they had a good thing going. Every episode of Galleries, they were like, "All right, Dave, take us out with like some rambling quote about something that's like some super deep nugget of lore."
When they were making the jokes of like, "Oh, make him say McClunky." No, we can't make him say McClunky.
That was so good. Oh man, they're just like us. And that is another thing about it. Is that Dave Filoni, he's I don't know, he's about 10 years older than I am. That's not a whole lot. And there's a lot of Star Wars fans that are older than me. And that also creates a different level of confidence in the media, is that this isn't George Lucas making this. This is some guy who could have been in my high school class.
Who grew up on it as well.
Exactly. He grew up on it the same way we did, but that also makes him somewhat it doesn't make him infallible. Suddenly he's like a peer, and therefore we scrutinize it because we're like, well, we would have done this, you know? Yeah, it's a huge universe. I love using that expression. It's a big galaxy out there. Like, you know, it's some of the stuff is for you. Some of the stuff is for like the 3-year-old like nephew of yours that like is watching it for the first time. Everyone's going to latch onto something different.
Yep.
The trick is to not putting people down for what their personal preferences are. You know,
and don't focus all your effort, like you were saying before we even started the stream. Don't put your effort into the stuff that you don't like. Acknowledge that you don't like it. And then put your appreciation and your focus, all your mental energy into the stuff that you do like. You're gonna be way more happy of a person enjoying this kind of.
It can be something as simple as a ratio. I like to balance out every criticism with 2 positive statements. You'll notice that if you watch my videos, if I say I don't like something, it'll be followed by a but. 2 positive statements every time.
Right. And well, that's also like the thing, like going down the path of hate, sort of going in the philosophy of like Jedi and Sith, going down the path of hate. It is so easy. It is so easy to dislike something, to hate on something.
I could wrap some tinfoil on my head and start ranting about Kathleen Kennedy, and I guarantee you I would double my subscribers in a week. Guarantee it.
Most likely.
I'd be making so much more money than I am.
proven.
It's a matter of integrity at this point, not to give in to your anger, you know?
Right. But at the same time, it will maybe in some weird place give you like satisfaction that you're raging about that for that moment. But it's going to eat you up, and at the end of the day, trying to flourish with the positives, it is going to have a bigger payoff in a positive way. So, yeah, just
I think a
don't.
lot of the outrage that we see from these talking heads is a lot more manufactured than you might think, and I don't think that there's that much authentic passion behind it. It's very performative.
Oh no,
And
yeah.
it's very much a grift. It's for the money, you know.
For the
Like a lot
for
of
the
these people
creators,
don't care about
100%.
Star Wars as much as they care about making Star Wars YouTubes. That's where the
Right.
passion is making the videos. Not
Well, then
watching
their
the
whole
content.
brand is built on convincing people to feel a certain way, which is what I was talking
Yeah.
about earlier. You can't convince people to feel a certain way. You might get a bunch of people that feel the same way, but if your whole channel and your whole platform is built on you have to feel this way, or you're not a Star Wars fan because I'm a true Star Wars fan and
It's
you
the
want to be
difference between
like
a
me.
review and a persuasive essay.
Exactly.
Right.
We're not, I'm not trying to persuade anyone with my reviews. It's all about my feelings.
Right.
I use
Well,
I statement,
versus-
subjective language. This is what I liked about it.
Well, yeah, versus if, like the content we make is just talking about the stuff we like. And if other people happen to like that, they're going to join along and subscribe and be in the chat and live streams like this. And I'm not telling people you have to like this scene, this one little thing
Yeah,
that stood
it's
out
not like
to
you're
me.
wrong if you don't agree.
Right.
It's subjective. It's all
That's what it
opinion.
comes down to.
Yeah, and just to go on X-Wings, he's still gonna be negative if it's awful. That is 100% okay. If
Yeah, that's
I
totally
feel
valid.
negative in the moment, the important part is don't hold on to it. Like get it like that night, be mad about it. Like get like go to bed, sleep a night on it, and then just concentrate on the positives again. Because it just you're just gonna ruin your
Right.
own life, honestly, if you just hold on to that negative stuff. Like just don't.
Yeah, I mean, I've said it so many times. Like your opinion is always going to be valid. It's how you express yourself that matters.
Yep.
How loud, how angry you're going to be about it, how aggressive you're going to be about it. That's all up to you. It's not the episode's fault if you go on like a tirade and start insulting people after the episode comes out. That's on you. If you don't like it, you could say, "Man, that episode was disappointing," and then move on and watch, I don't know, something that you do like.
Right.
Or rewatch an episode you liked better of the same show.
Right.
You know,
That's a good point because like usually or actually every time we I do react on Star Wars Casual's channel like live on the episode every time, and after we do that we jump on Night of the Force channel and like sort of get our first thoughts in and like talk about it. And on one of the streams, me personally, I did feel, I think it was episode 3, in that first moment I didn't like the episode really too much at all. And I was just like, guys,
Streets of Mos Espa, right?
Biker
Right.
game. Yeah.
biker game.
Gotcha.
And so, but like I went into stream, I went on, and then I just kind of realized everything that I'm going to come up with is negative. Guys, I'm a peace out for today. You guys take care, talk. Because,
Yep.
I mean, I personally just don't like talking negative. I mean, I don't have
Absolutely.
a problem talking negative, but it just doesn't make me feel good. So,
No, I totally respect that. Why put that energy out there? You know,
right. It's just not worth it. And yeah, but,
if someone else out there would echo those opinions and be like, "Yeah, I hated it too," but the thing is, like, is it necessary to feed him? Do you need to? You know.
Yep.
I don't know. I think that there's at least one positive thing to be found. Like it's almost like a mental exercise, even in something that you hate. Like episode 3, I would have been like, I think it's really cool that they had Mailurons from Star Wars Rebels in there. Like that was neat, you know, and like just leave it at that.
yeah.
The girl, Drash from episode 3. A lot of people were wondering if she was going to be Aelin Vel.
I was wondering at first, but now since
That's
it's the wrong
Boba's daughter.
hand,
That is Boba's daughter from Legends, just like a reconstituted version of the character. There was also a theory that she was going to be homegirl from the Masters of Terras-Kazi video game, which would have been pretty cool too.
Right, but that one I
Arden
was
Lynn,
referring
that's
to
right.
was the she has the arm on the wrong side for that, sadly. But that would have been an awesome callback since we got like the Terras-Kazi reference in Solo.
Right, with Kira's moves. And then it was also recently brought back up in the War of the Bounty Hunters Crimson Reign episode where they had their showdown.
Yes.
That's pretty funny.
Vori, does that imply that some people have good farts? Some people out there have like genius farts. Is that just to extend your analogy?
Well, one of my
This is
favorite
a very
words,
illuminating fart you just had. It really made
very
me think.
interesting word, eproctophile. is someone who is turned on by other people's farts. I don't know how I know that, but just that's kind of rocked the file.
Okay.
I don't know.
Fair
Well,
enough.
I'll be discussing that in therapy next week. Thank you.
All right. Well, we're gonna close it out. We hit the 1 hour and a half hour mark.
Oh, can I float a theory here just before we
Yes,
get
please
done here?
do.
Madam Garza Fwip. What's her deal, right? Like, she's very calm and collected. She thinks she can talk down a fight between a Wookiee and a Trando, which, by the way, like that's pretty ballsy. That's a racial beef you're getting in between of right there. But nonetheless, I don't trust her. I don't know that I don't like her, but I don't trust her, and I think that she is secretly running the joint. Because if you remember when Mak Shaiz was like, go over to the brothel, go over to her establishment, see what's really going on. He comes over there, and before he can find out what is really going on, the twins show up, and we leave the location
sweating
and all
bullets.
the stuff. I think she's the real, like she's the de facto ruler of Mos Eisley.
Well, here's something I'll put onto that. Do you think that she was sweating bullets because Boba was coming to ask her the questions, or do you think she's sweating bullets because the twins are in town and she's letting Boba Fett take over? Like, do you think she's in trouble from underneath?
I don't think she works for the twins. I think she works for Crimson Dawn.
I think
in the last episode she's going to run off and do a hollow call with Kira and be like, Lady Kira, like it's all gone crazy. We need help over here. Yep, Shane, exactly. Yeah.
But it definitely seems like she's sort of playing like, oh, I'm just the simple poor girl that needs to be protected, but like actually she's running stuff. Yeah, it definitely seems
I think that we're going to get the moment where she's like the femme fatale from the noir story. I hope she has like a little like scout trooper blaster and a garter belt. She can like pull it on.
That would be pretty
not another step, Boba.
I have no idea where her character is going to go. I have no idea where the twins fit in. I don't know where the Pikes fit in. Like,
if Max Rebo dies, I'm canceling my Disney Plus subscription like immediately.
Yes,
and I'll throw my computer out the window.
I was surprised you didn't cancel it after the Tibana Gonk got killed.
I've tracked these guys down ages ago.
Dude, those are so cool.
Nice.
These are Star Wars buddies from 1998. They're little plushes from Disneyland. So cool. But I didn't realize that this is my first Book of Boba merch because this is the new band in the cantina.
That's so cool.
Which needs a new name. I'm calling them the Jizz Kings, but they need a better name.
Awesome.
There was a shirt on Facebook Marketplace I was going to buy like a week ago. For someone was selling it for like $10. It looked like a Beatles shirt, like with the same artwork and design of the letters and everything. But it was Figrin Dan and the modal nodes.
I've seen that shirt. That's awesome.
It was like $10, but they like pulled it off the marketplace before I could message them. But I thought that would have been so cool.
I will say that like her saying like "hit it, Max" was probably one of the most hype moments.
The episode earlier when the twins show up, I love the gif of the music abruptly stopping. That was so good.
All right. Well, final thoughts before we wrap it up. Strike.
Enjoying the show. Can't wait for the finale.
Yes, 100%. Yeah. Really quickly, I have two of my friends wanted to like tell you something, Kyle, because they're fans of yours as well.
Oh.
And so Charlie just wanted to compliment you in general on your helmet collection.
Oh,
which,
thank
by
you.
the way, there are some very nice ones. I especially find the Sazy Tin helmet very nice.
This one. So this is actually the Mandalorian Stormbringer helmet from the Old Republic game.
Oh, really?
It's been 3D printed from the in-game files of the character, and it's not completed yet. I haven't actually put the visor in it yet, but it does look just like the helmet that he wears in the Tartakovsky Clone Wars cartoon.
That's what I thought it was. Okay, so it's.
I feel like I could get away with pretending it is if I did a cosplay of Sazy Teen. I probably would be able to do that.
Oh, 100%. It looks dope anyway. So.
Thank you. That's my favorite helmet, actually.
Yeah. And pretty Blue wanted to ask you in general, how much you have been enjoying the bounty hunter storyline in Old Republic, or how you've been enjoying it.
Probably my favorite class story, actually. It's the one that I started with. I played as a power tech, and now I'm playing as an arsenal mercenary, which is a little bit more pew 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 pew, and that's sweet.
More action.
But yeah, I did the first expansion with him, but it's all gotten really like Force user-y, so I haven't been able to use my bounty hunter in a little while. I'm such a sucker though. The cartel market has me wrapped around their pinky finger. Every time they drop a new set of Mando armor, I have to go like buy it. It's awful. I need help. This is a cry for help.
Yes. Totally understand that. No.
But yeah, no, I'm loving it. Short answer is I'm totally loving it.
Awesome. Yeah. Thoughts on the show? I'm definitely hopeful. I think since we also had like the 100% confirmation that Boba is now 100% healed, so there are no excuses. I think
You're gonna get the good stuff.
we're going to get in the real gritty stuff. I have trust in them. I think it's going to be good. And because it's Filoni's episode, what about seeing Ambo in live action? I want to see that. Maybe not, but
Ambo
if
would be
that
so
happens,
cool. If it's Filoni, I feel like Filoni has the authorization to bring in people like that. You know what I mean?
it's literally Filoni who voices him in the Clone Wars.
If it was a Rick Famuyiwa episode, I would be like, oh, we're not going to get any big names. It's just going to be a straight dope action thing. But the fact that it's Filoni, we could get Embo, we could get Cad Bane. Like, we don't know what kind of heat the Pikes have on their side. It's not just going to be them versus Pikes. The Pikes are going to hire some bounty hunters too. And Cad Bane and Fennec have a great like setup from Bad Batch. She lost him a lot of credits, so that would be a great rematch.
And the way they've setting BK up, I feel like Bosk is not that far fetched, honestly.
Oh, that would be such a good. That would be such a good throwdown. Bosk versus BK.
Like, especially because he literally beat BK at some point. Like he would have beat BK if Afra wouldn't have gotten in there.
I've been a Bosk fan for years, but seeing Black K in live action, like you can't help but love him.
Yeah,
he's so cool. He's like an evil version of Harry and the Hendersons.
Yes.
I'm so happy that it's like nothing is off the table at this point.
Totally.
We don't know what they're going to give us. Luke coming back in live action was way off the table until we got it.
Lid open. So we like our expectations are like, it's hard to control them now, you know?
And I trust they're going to do it the right way, because when I heard the rumors of like, oh, Din Djarin's going to be flying at N1, I was like, that's, I don't know how I feel, but the way they did it was correct. And so awesome. I trust that the people making these shows are passionate. They know what they're doing.
Right.
And whether it's a good show objectively or not, I don't care. It's delivering to me as a Star Wars fan what I want out of it.
That's what matters.
My only fear would be if the media response continues kind of how it's been so far in this season, how that affects future shows and how Disney, because Disney,
the reason we didn't get a Solo sequel, you know,
right? Because Disney might be like, you know what, there was too much backlash. Maybe this whole, leading up
that
to
kind of plays
into
what Strike was saying about the prequels, about not really feeling comfortable entering into the dialogue with your positivity because you're just going to get jumped on.
Right.
That creates a disproportionate set of numbers that Disney's going to look at and say, oh, look, so few people like this. Because so
negative is always louder than positive, because the people that are positive about it don't necessarily go out of their way to tell people that
I'm not going to scream at anyone to tell them that episode 2 of Book of Boba Fett was the best one, because we got the whole lizard.
It's the opposite of being a hater, like being a Star Wars evangelist.
Right. That's
going door to door, being like, "Hey, have you watched Book of Boba Fett yet? It's badass." Like next, like
also a fine line, because people will quickly jump, as at least the not so nice people would quickly jump to calling you a shill or something, like blatantly liking it for the sake of liking it, which
is absolutely hysterical to me, and I think it speaks such volumes to the mindset and the weird delusional world that these people live in, that they think that happens.
Yeah,
that Disney would bother to pay people to say they like something, like, and they're not joking. They mean it.
They mean it.
There are people out there that think I pay my rent with checks from Kathleen Kennedy because I talk about how the Book of Boba Fett is cool on Twitter. Like someone out there thinks that makes sense, and that's a rational thought.
If anyone was going to be a Disney shill, honestly, it would be me. Growing up watching almost exclusively Disney, I didn't watch Cartoon Network or even DreamWorks. I mean, I grew up going to Disneyland for my entire childhood, like twice a week, going to Disneyland.
I'm so jealous of that. I love hearing about stories like that, because I grew up in New Zealand, no Disneyland anywhere nearby.
Right. Well, if anyone was going to be a Disney shill, it would be me. But me, now as an adult, especially with 2 daughters, like I don't agree with Disney's values that they put in some of the newer movies and stuff, and that's a whole separate discussion. But I don't owe Disney anything. Thanks for the childhood. I had a great time. A lot of the movies are very
You
nostalgic
don't
for
owe
me.
Disney anything, and I think that it's important to also point out to everyone watching, Disney doesn't really owe you anything either.
Yes.
Like,
Good
people
point.
are reacting to what they feel like they've been promised, but I have to remind you, you weren't really promised anything. This is a gift.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, spending 12 to 15 bucks a month on Disney Plus does not give you an equal stake in this like $17 billion TV show. Like,
Right.
you do not have a controlling interest. Like, you I don't know. You should just be grateful. That's what I'd try to do, is just
Right.
be grateful for these, because I
Well-
view all Star Wars as a gift. I lived through the late 2000s when we had no content, and the best we had to option was like a dancing Star Wars Connect game. Like, that was as good as it got.
Right.
It was
Han
rough.
Solo.
Well, if
And
you
I'll
want
never
to
take it for granted, you know.
if you want to do anything to try to, not that you're really going to make a difference, but if you want to make your voice known, do what we're doing. Have a channel and talk about the stuff that you like. And maybe someone at Lucasfilm will hear it, probably not. But it doesn't matter if you're being that positive voice and picking the stuff up that you like. You're never going to be as vocal as those negative people. And I think we've had a really fantastic discussion tonight talking about that stuff.
Yeah, this was a
we
great
got
discussion with both of you. Thank you so much for having me
Yeah,
on tonight, by the way. I had a
absolutely. So
great
we'll-
time.
Thanks for
We'll
having me on
wrap
for
it
the
up.
first time.
You are. Was this the first time you've been on my channel before?
Well, at least on this sort of segment.
Well, this
not
is a gift
entirely.
because this is Mustaches on Mustafar, and I don't see a mustache.
Oh,
But
calling you
I'll
out.
allow it. I'll allow. Yeah, where's that fake one you told me
You're
about?
looking
Yeah,
for.
I
I was
know,
gonna say
I'm
this
looking
man is
for it.
reaching for a mustache right now.
I have them somewhere. Damn it.
Yeah, but this was a very, very fun time. I think we had a great discussion. I think the bottom line is we are not going to agree on everything, but opinions and feelings are valid until you tell people that they're wrong for having them.
Exactly. Yes. Until you tell other people what to do, like, you're good to go, and no one can take away your personal relationship with Star Wars.
100%.
Yes, exactly. You cancel every one ungratefulness with two gratefulnesses. That is science. It's canon.
Yep.
Yeah, Shane, I'll see you at Comics with Katarn. Every Wednesday, I host live comic reads of the new canon Star Wars comics on my Twitch channel. Do some impromptu voice acting on the fly, but I haven't read them before, so it creates some kind of hilarious situations sometimes.
A lot of fun. And everyone, if you're not subscribed to both of these channels, they're both in the description, so please go subscribe to both of them. If for some reason you're not subscribed to me, I would appreciate it. You don't have to, but whatever. But everyone,
I hope so.
thank you for coming
so.
tonight. I hope so. I'm trying to get to that 1,000 mark.
Hell yeah.
Slowly but surely. But everyone, thank you for coming by tonight. If you've been here since the beginning, I really appreciate your time, and I will see you wherever I happen to see you in the galaxy.